Well, hello everyone, Dan Hurd, Dan Hurd Prospecting here. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome. I hope to earn your subscription today. I'm here with Jason from Mount Baker Mining and Metals. We are finally going to get to run those samples we got at the Midway Mine like 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. We're gonna run through some of Jason's machinery, a big jaw crusher, a big impact mill, and then a shaker table, and then maybe smelt it down and see what kind of grades are in that mine. So thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to today.
Yeah, thanks Dan for coming down, and looking forward to seeing what you got in your rocks.
So, wish us luck, and I hope you enjoy. We will start by taking our samples and running it through the jaw crusher here. What size jaw crusher is this?
That's a 6" by 10" jaw crusher.
A 6 by 10 jaw crusher here, which is going to take our bigger rocks and drop them down there as, you know, small pebbles. We will then take those small pebbles and run it through the impact mill here, the hammer mill, and we'll drop them in there. They'll go through the hammers and get hammered down to a pulp, to a fine particle, which will fall out the bottom there, run right down onto the shaker table. All of this equipment is made by Mount Baker Mining and Metals, by this man right here.
That's it.
Individually,
Yes.
Every last weld was done by you?
I do it all.
No, they've got a team that make these things. And going over the shaker table here should separate out all the light quartz from the heavier sulfides, and hopefully, possibly, maybe, see some free milled gold as well. That's the plan. Did I get it right, Jason?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Jason's running off to start the generator up. We are going to start with our quartz vein sample because it is the cleanest sample of all of them and the least likely to have anything really good in it. We will be running the dirtier samples afterwards, but they're going to be harder to clean up. So we'll run the clean one first. This is your generator over here?
This is it. Yeah, this is our 3-phase generator. Runs the jaw crusher and the hammer mill.
It takes a lot of power to run this kind of equipment. Jason did take me for a tour of the big manufacturing facility they have here, but that's not where we're working today. We're just working on his little, private lab area where he's got his equipment set up.
Plug in the pump here. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier. This is just a density separator. The dense material falls down in the grooves, works its way across the table, and everything light goes across. And it doesn't matter if it's gold and rock, metal and plastic, anything else, it just separates by density. But we'll get it turned on here and get it wetted down.
The good stuff comes out here. The mediocre stuff comes out here. The we don't want it stuff comes out there. Oh, actually, that's where the we don't want it stuff goes. The fact is, anything that we really want is going to come out in these first two. This stuff here, only really if we identify some reason why we might want to look through it. Otherwise, what do you call them, middlings?
Middlings fraction, and most of the time the middlings will end up going back through the system. Hardly anybody processes the middlings for gold. They just recycle it, and it either goes into the tailings or a little bit comes across. So
yeah. And this is where things get loud.
That's it.
Earplugs are mandatory.
Okay, we'll start the generator up here.
Earplugs are in. Now I have to yell everything because I can't tell how loud I'm talking. I don't know. I'll yell at the camera so you can always hear me. Jason says that this should take like 10 minutes to actually run a bag through, so it doesn't take long at all. Might take 10 minutes to cut them open.
Yeah. It's gonna go fast.
It's gonna go fast, okay. That is quick.
There you go, done.
under 1 minute to run one bag.
Fast, huh?
Very fast. I was actually shocked how fast that crushed. I have used jaw crushers before and found it slightly tedious. That was insanely fast. And there's that quartz vein. That was the third sample we took. Crushed down. Again, we don't see many sulfides in this, which indicates to us that there's probably not going to be much gold in this sample. But we have to check it out all the same. And now into the impact mill, hammer mill. Again, under a minute to run one full bucket through this machine. The crush is coming out here. Very, very fine sand into a copper here that separates it right over the table. You feel the ridges underneath. The heaviest stuff should be going that way right now. Let's go have a look. The lightest powder is going off the surface, just tailings going away. That's the mud, the light quartz. The heavier stuff, the material that might have some sulfides in it or other material that is heavier, will be coming down this line right here. The heavy stuff is actually climbing up into these for deeper grooves, coming out and being sort of separated off. So you can see any sulfides right through here coming down. Here's the heaviest of the sulfides coming out this way. And they're going into the appropriate bins. Jason is definitely seeing a line, a haze coming through here, which is the sulfides. You can see it there again. You can see a little bit of it right there. The sulfides have been working their way up. That's where we possibly could have some gold content. Is this a speck of gold making its way down?
It might be. Yeah, it sure looks like it.
Piece of gold?
Yeah.
Nice, because we don't see much free mill gold in this material. So there we go. We've got a bit of free mill gold coming down out of here. I highly doubt my close-up camera can catch that as it's moving. So Jason just shut off the table so I can take a quick shot of the first piece of gold. Might be the second piece of gold, but we definitely see a piece of gold working its way down. Oh, he sees another one.
Maybe one up here.
Ah, he's got some gold.
Oh, there's some there. Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit of gold. And with the machine shut off, you can definitely see the sulfides coming down. There's quite the line of sulfides. Even though we didn't really see it in the quartz, it was there for sure. Okay, let's get this thing processing again.
All right.
Hey, it's the silhouette of Dan Hurd. Now, luckily, we can turn the generator off for a few minutes here as the table does its job and processes here, so we can actually talk and you can hear me. I really hope when I was talking earlier that the microphone was be able to pick me up over top of that generator. But look at that, beautiful lines of sulfides coming all the way down. We saw the odd speck of free milled gold. There goes one right there. Little tiny speck of free milled gold. What we know about this site is that the gold and silver is locked up in the sulfides, that there is no or very little free milled gold. But hey, we just saw a few specks, so there is a little bit there.
It's hard to tell when the table's shaking.
Yeah, I see what you're looking at.
Yeah, that one and maybe that one too coming across. It's hard to tell.
There's a significant silver content to this. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So we can just unplug the table. Yeah, those are much more silvery in color, but you can really see the bands of sulfides. They kind of come down parallel with the edge of the grooves. and all the gold. If we get some good gold on the table today, you can actually see the fan of sulfides come down like this and the fan of gold come across this way. It's really neat to watch.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we'll see too much of that because the gold is tied up in here.
Yeah, sure.
But
sure.
maybe we'll get lucky.
Hope so. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's plug it in. I'll let the table run for another 30 seconds, and then I'll come through and brush out the grooves just to make sure we're as clean as we can get for our next sample.
Sounds good. And yes, as we said before, this is the cleanest of the 3 samples. The other 2 samples are really heavy in sulfides, really heavy, and they're dirty. They're like rusted sulfides and a bit of dirt and topsoil and ugly things in there. So this is going to be the easiest one to run for sure. When we get into the other ones, you're going to see a whole lot more of those sulfide lines. And, you know, it's just going to get messy.
I'm just going to brush out the top few grooves here. And sometimes the gold actually gets hung up in those grooves if there's not enough material to keep it moving. So we might see a little bit of very, very fine gold here. It's unfortunately not. I don't think there's much in here as far as, like you said, free milling gold. But we'll work our sulfides down the table here. Again, we're just helping it along. We could stand here for half an hour and wait for it to all go down, but we want to make the shaker table as clean as possible. That might be a piece, huh?
Yeah, might be.
Get the shaker table as clean as possible for our next sample. Oh shoot.
What?
We forgot to weigh them. We should weigh the bags.
We should weigh the bags.
We should weigh the bags.
That's why we used the one that we didn't really care about to start with.
We're figuring out the process.
Trial, yeah.
Yeah.
And something else I should note here, a setup like this is really designed to be running the same material all day long, you know, 10 hours a day, the same crush, the same whatever, not needing to be cleaned, you know, every 5 minutes. We're running a whole bunch of small samples where something like this is really, you know, a production machine. It would be at a mine site somewhere where they're running the same ore all day long. Then eventually at the end of the day, they would clean out these little bins, which would probably be buckets at that point, with all of their cons.
And here is the #1 concentrates.
That's the good stuff.
That's the good stuff. Here's the #2 high grade. And what I found over the testing over the years is about 95% of the free gold ends up here.
Yep.
About 5% ends up here, with very, very little in the middlings or the tailings. And so what I've come to start doing is with the #2, there's usually a lot more #2. And so I'll take the #2 after a big run and I'll just run it back on the table and clean it up, and I can eliminate 95% of the volume by having that gold bounce across under the water bar.
One more time.
Yeah, so I've really concentrated it down. If I start with maybe 2 or 3 tons, I can end up with a few pounds of really high grade concentrate. That's
now
all
for us smelting this to test it, we'd probably just be smelting this here.
Yep.
Because we know 95% of our gold is there.
Yep.
And then we can do, you know, a quick calculation if we really want to say, you know, 5% more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So we'll set this aside. We'll label these the #1 and #2. We'll set those aside. We'll run our other two samples, and then we'll have all of our concentrates that we can then smelt and play with and see what we have.
Perfect. Take out one earplug for now so I can actually hear what I'm doing and not yell at the camera. It's kind of funny not having your ears to work with. You don't know how loud you're speaking. That was quick. Under half an hour to crush, process. That was really quick. And I don't think it's going to take that much more time for the next 2 samples, even though there's 2 bags, not 1, because, you know, that was less than a minute and that was less than a minute. So if I have 2 minutes and 2 minutes, it's still going to take about the same on the table, I'm sure. So yeah, it is quick. Love using this bigger equipment, that's for sure. If you do, you know, run yourself a hard rock mine or need some of this equipment in any way, it's Mount Baker Mining and Metals, and there's their website. And this is fabulous equipment made here in Washington State in the USA. Yes, I'm a foreigner today. If you're not familiar with Jason from Mount Baker Mining, he also runs a YouTube channel. So check him out. He's got great content, a little bit different than mine because he's more hard rock oriented, where I'm more placer oriented. Right. If you're interested in mining, if you're interested in gold, treasure hunting, all that kind of stuff, make sure you look up Jason on YouTube. Okay, the north vein. Now, which one was the north vein? Can we remember which side was which? Because it kind of goes east-west.
Oh, does it? The north vein was the uphill side.
The uphill side, okay. The uphill side, okay, yep. So it's the south vein that I'm most interested in.
Oh, okay.
So we'll do it last.
Okay, perfect. But like you said, this stuff is pretty gnarly looking stuff, all oxidized and brown and junky, so we'll see. I remember when we were running this stuff, or getting this stuff with our hammers and stuff, it was real oxidized, but there was some shiny stuff in there. You could see some sulfides.
Yep.
So our hope is that we recover some of that on the shaker table today.
I think we're going to see huge lines of sulfides at it, especially this one.
Okay.
But both of them.
Cool. Well, let's get it crushed through the crusher.
Jason's about to run the 2 bags from the north seam, the uphill side, and this is going to be much dirtier. Check out how quick that thing crushes. That is insane. If you didn't get to see us, let's go back to my channel. We have a couple videos of Jason and I actually collecting this from Midway Mine, and we had a lot of fun. It was nice having Jason up in Canada. We had to deport him afterwards, of course, but it was great having him on. This sample, we remember to weigh the bucket so we know how much we're putting through versus, you know, how much we get out in the end. Give us an idea of how much gold is in this. 28.5. 23.1. There we are. Once you take out the weight of the bucket, that was almost exactly 50 kilograms. And yes, I know I'm in the States, but it's just so much easier to work in metric than pounds. Here comes the good stuff. Now look at the color difference. Where that other one was sort of a white mud coming off, this is a red mud. Because this stuff has so many oxidized sulfides in it. So much rust. Comes our sulfides. First line of sulfides coming down. Jason sees the first piece. Tiny little speck of gold working its way down. I see one right in front of it too. Is that a bigger piece coming?
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah.
A little wire.
Yeah. 3 mil gold. Woohoo! Another piece coming. Right there, just about to fall off. There's a piece coming. There. Down. And now the line of sulfides has shown itself. Look at that. A lot more sulfides. Jason was just pointing out how you can see actually a line of blue sulfides. This camera's not going to get it. Blue sulfides versus the yellow sulfides. The bluer sulfides will be the molybdenum that we saw earlier, the moly, where the sort of yellower or grayer sulfides will be the iron pyrite. And here's our number ones coming off. This is what we want to smelt right there. Number one's coming off nice. Another piece of gold. Look at this, it's just deep in sulfides. If we want all the sulfides, it looks like some of them are going down to the middles there, so that we would have to, oh, yeah, they're traveling up there. If we were concerned, we could take that middle bucket, toss it back in, and let it run one more time, but I think we're getting more than enough for what we need here. That being said, if the gold is locked up in sulfides, there's some of our gold going down there. Oh, another piece of gold, and another one. 2 more, 3 more. There's a little bit of free mill.
And ideally, like you mentioned earlier, you would be running hundreds of pounds or tons. And the idea is if you get it nice and consistent, the line never moves. So you can set it and forget it, and you'll have this really nice cut. It's about half and half right now.
Now looking at what we're getting there, we're getting a lot of the sulfides in the 1 and 2, but then we're getting a heck of a lot in the number 3 as well. So we're probably only going to be smelting the 1 and 2, which means we're not going to get a great indication of how much gold is actually there, because so much of it's going to be going off on those number 3s, which means we're not going to get the numbers we want unless we do a whole lot more smelting. And I don't know, maybe we're going to run those number 3s again. Maybe we'll just sort of get a gut feeling of how much is there versus in the 1 and 2. Not sure where we're going with that yet. The generator's off. I can talk again. I can take this thing out. Haha. And I think why we have this big line of sulfides going down here is the volume of sulfides is so high, we're overwhelming the main 4 grooves going out. And we're just overwhelming them with so much that they're just dropping down, and we get this second line of sulfides. So if we wanted an accurate, smelt of all of our sulfides, I think we would have to pull that stuff back out into our smelt if we wanted to get that accurate number, rather than just sort of a gut feeling indication of how much gold there is. But there's just so much here that would be a huge smelt if we try to take it all. Jason's just helping out getting the sulfides into the number 1 there. Look how much, there's pounds of sulfides here.
Massive amount of sulfides, yeah.
But that's what's holding the gold. And that's a good sign if there's that much sulfides. If that's where the gold is.
Absolutely.
That means there's just that much more gold.
Yeah,
and silver, of course. Here's our number 1. You got, what, a pound there? Yeah, probably a pound of the number 1 concentrates. That's where all the gold fell into. And then, twice as much in the number 2. But that's just all sulfide. So whatever we sort of decide per gram, per pound, per ton, per whatever of sulfides, how much gold is actually, trapped up in there. The more sulfides you have, the more gold you have. Getting set for the south vein, which is the one I am most interested in. And if we overwhelm that table with that last one, this is going to be...
I'll feed it very, very slow through the hammer mill, so we'll minimize, hopefully, the amount of sulfides we lose. But yeah, we'll just go slow on this one. We're not in any rush.
Right now I'm hoping that sulfides with more gold content are heavier than sulfides with less gold content, and that they're going up to the number 1s. But there's just so many sulfides. Hard to deal with. Now, luckily, I'm meeting with that big mining company that we're talking to about, working the Midway mine. I'm meeting with them next week, and they will definitely be taking some samples and sending it off to the labs to assay. So where we're getting an idea of what's in there, they'll know exactly. So most of these rocks coming through here right now are solid sulfides. Any rock you grab is just a solid mass. More water helps separate this more, or the fact that it's just all sulfides, it doesn't really matter?
Yeah, it's just they're so dense that it's hard to push them where you want them to go.
Basically just straight sulfides here, which is good. That means a lot more gold. Just also means we won't get an accurate number. But definitely be worth taking some of this and sending it off to a lab for an accurate number. First one is 24.4. Second one is 21.2. So that's about 44 pounds of that material once you take off a bit from the bucket. And these are only half buckets because we have less material, but it's a much denser material, so overall it's heavy. And this sample, the mud coming off, is a dark gray. Where the last one was rust, this one is sulfide, silver gray. Look at the floating sulfides even in the tray. Crazy. And there goes our first 2 pieces of gold. Oh, there might be one there too. Here comes another. And another. Alrighty, we got some gold. Yeah, I see 1, 2, 3 at least coming down, 4. 5th right there. And a rock. And you can really see the blue, the line of blue sulfides here versus the yellowish sulfide, which we assume is molybdenum versus iron pyrite. We just turned off the table for a quick second just to get a good shot of that line of blue. And I definitely see specks of yellow all through it too. For instance, right at the point there, right at the apex of that curve, you see that little speck of yellow? There's a little piece of gold in with that blue. To get a really good understanding of this, what we'd want to really do is separate off the blue sulfides from the sort of greenish yellow sulfides, smelt them separately and see which one is carrying the gold, or if they're both carrying the gold. But there's definitely a significant amount of this blue, which is obviously a different metal, probably moly. And I assume that the vast majority of this is iron pyrite, and I assume that because of the amount of rust in the pit. What a difference real, industrial, proper engineered, real equipment makes. Crusher crushed in seconds, another crusher crushed in seconds, the shaker table processed with no flaws at all. This worked so well compared to anything I've used before. Absolutely love it. Again, if you're in the market for some hard rock mining equipment, check out Mount Baker Mining and Metals. Their equipment absolutely works. Well, tell Jason Dan sent ya. And there we are, 1s and 2s. Those must be heavy.
Feel how heavy they are. That
Yep.
one, I mean, I'm gonna put that one on top.
Almost dropped it.
Heavy. Good stuff. All right, well, I think the equipment worked extremely well. I think Dan is pretty impressed with what we did. There we go, thumbs up from him. If you're interested in any of our equipment, you can check out our website. I think Dan will put a link in the description below.
Absolutely.
There's this equipment, which is all electric, but we also offer the jaw crusher and the hammer mill with a gas-powered motor. So you could, in theory, or actually in practice, run all this on your mine site with just a little Honda generator. So again, check us out on our website.
Awesome. Look at this! I get to see the shop that we see so often in Jason's videos. There's the kiln we'll be using for smelting in today. Jason is getting things ready for our first smelt. Oh.